On a sunny Parisian morning, Patrick Job walks his dog. Patrick has recently been vaccinated and has the badge to prove it. But he would welcome something more official.
A COVID-19 health pass would allow us to travel, to get back a little bit of freedom.
By June, those wishes will be a reality because the European Commission plans a digital green pass, which all EU residents would have on a smartphone, proving they have either been vaccinated, recently recovered from COVID, or had a negative test.
With this digital certificate, we aim to help member states reinstate the freedom of movement in a safe, responsible and trusted manner.
But for some EU leaders, that goes neither far nor fast enough.
We don't want to wait for implementation by the EU. Rather, we'll take the first steps on the national level. The Health Minister will give a news conference on Thursday outlining the necessary legal basis to introduce green certificates in Austria as early as April.
Many in the tourism industry welcome the EU proposal.
A vaccine certificate is essential to make travel easier, and it's important that it's digital, because only a digital certificate makes it easier to check in at airports. It's no good if there's big queues and lots of bits of paper.
On the flip side, the World Health Organization is urging caution.
The requirement for certification of vaccination as a requirement for international travel is not justified, as vaccination is not widely enough available and is inequitably distributed throughout the world.
Having a certificate on a smartphone is clearly going to transform the way people travel across the EU. But in order to work as a proof of vaccination, the person must first have been vaccinated. And so far, at least, comparatively few Europeans have been. Dominic, Kane, Al Jazeera, Berlin.
Well, let's get more on this now from Thomas Lohninger. He's Executive Director of Epicenter Works. That's a digital rights organisation. And he joins us by Skype from Vienna. Good to have you with us on the programme. Would you say in principle that these passports are a good idea?
Thanks for having me. So it's a very complicated question because ultimately, I think when it comes to international travel, such a document already exists in the form of the WHO yellow immunization passport, the vaccination passport that has been around for decades, which is internationally recognized and very cheap to roll out. And certainly the EU wants to establish some form of digital program here. But the main argument that we would like to introduce is that this is not just for international travel. You can already see with the name, which is the same as in Israel, that certainly some member states will use this system to also open up society and, for example, give privileges to people that are vaccinated, that had the disease or that recently have been tested.
Well, that's going to happen anyway, you could argue, whether the government sanctions it or not. There's a well-known case of a plumbing chain in the UK that have refused to hire anyone unless they can prove they've been vaccinated. In terms of, so it's not necessarily a digital issue, it could also be a moral one, but one to which there is no answer to the question. You mentioned that WHO yellow passport. Do you think even reverting to that would work? Because you do have states that are refusing to accept travellers who haven't been vaccinated with a specific vaccine.
Of course, you're right. And in international travel, we had those systems for many, many years. And you could even increase the security of the yellow WHO vaccination passport with holographic stickers for the COVID-19 vaccinations. Those could even have the name of the person engraved that has been vaccinated. So there are ways to build on a truly international system. But if we really want to do this digital, and I can only speak to the privacy aspects of the systems. I think there's a wider debate to be had whether we have the medical evidence for such a system, whether it's ethically what we want as a society. But purely speaking from a privacy perspective, it is possible to roll out such a system without many negative side effects for the privacy of people, because it's not just the fact that you have your own health information in that system. If we really use this for every restaurant, for every museum, for every hairdresser that you go to, then of course also the information about the movement of people could be collected in the wrong architecture of that system.
So do you think this is just a technical question for the European Union then to be able to protect against privacy breaches? Because at the end of the day, if you're asking people if they've had a vaccine, I mean, they're going to that is a breach of privacy because you're giving up information about your health status. Surely there's nothing really you can do to counteract that. So are you saying this is purely on the nuts and bolts of how the EU roll this out and put together the digital infrastructure? Or do you think the privacy question is one which should nix the entire thing?
I think you have to strike a balance here. Ultimately, the EU had the experience last year of being late to the party when it comes to contact tracing applications because it was more Apple and Google that sets a standard than the European Union. And now they want to be early. Now they want to get it right. And the current proposal that the EU has announced today is definitely going in the right direction. It's better on privacy than the solutions we've seen in Germany and in Austria. But it's really about the details. And sadly, we have not seen the details today. Those are left for delegated acts from the European Commission. Right now, we've only seen a framework from the EU that's solely about the freedom of movement from people, and it's solely left to the member states on deciding how those vaccination or immunization passports are used in other parts of society. And those uses will also need national legislation. OK, so lots of details still to be fine-tuned there. Great to get your input. Thank you so much. Thomas Lohninger there joining us from Vienna.